White House is trying to find ways to protect access to abortion if Roe versus Wade is overturned by the Supreme Court. President Biden says, should that happen, it would impact more than just women who are trying to find an abortion. He added that if the Supreme Court draft opinion becomes official, it could impact a lot more rights, a lot more constitutional rights because of the way that opinion is written. For more on this, let's bring in ABC News political director Rick Klein on this. So, Rick, if in fact the Supreme Court overturns Roe versus Wade, that means the issue goes back to the states. Some states will outlaw it, some states regulate it, some states keep it the way it is. What is the president's? I mean, Congress could pass a law, but what's the president's role? What can a president do to keep access to abortions in the United States?
You know, not too much, Terry. And I don't have to tell Terry Moran, our Supreme Court reporter, about how this works. But the Supreme Court, if Roe v. Wade is thrown out, they will find that there is no federal right to an abortion. States are free to then do as they wish, and the federal government can declare whatever it likes, but that's not going to override how a state views this. There are things that the federal government does. The federal government provides health care services here and around the world, and that has often been an area of contention that Republicans have tried to pare back. There are things that can be done by executive order in terms of authorizations for certain funding or certain individuals to be involved in the performance, counseling, maybe even transportation services. But in terms of access to abortion as a matter of right, that is not something that the president or even the Congress can just simply declare if the Supreme Court finds that it's not in the Constitution.
Right. The president can say, I'm going to do my best, but he's going to need Congress. So let's talk about that. There is a move already afoot in Congress to make Roe versus Wade the law of the land. Can that happen?
Can it pass? Probably not. Are they allowed to try to pass it? Of course they can. Now, even if they did pass it, would that override the Supreme Court? No, of course not, because the Supreme Court's finding that there isn't a federal right would still give states license to do as they choose with it. There would be massive challenges if the Supreme Court if the federal government were simply to pass a law and the president were to sign it and say that there is a federal right to an abortion. The way you codify federal rights is by a constitutional amendment, which, of course, a much higher bar than passing a law. But even the question of passing a law seems out of the question. Right now, it appears that the Democrats do not have anything close to 60 votes. They may not even have the majority of 50 votes in terms of passing something that would codify Roe v. Wade. We heard just today from Senator Susan Collins, who supports abortion rights, saying she intends to vote against this bill because she thinks, like it has been in the past, that it is too broad. Now, Democrats can continue to pare that back to chase the vote, but they're not going to get past the legislative filibuster. There's even questions about how some House Democrats would vote. This is just a rhetorical exercise. It's a statement of principles. And even if it were to pass and be signed into law, it would have questionable impact in the states that are poised to outlaw abortion the moment that Roe v. Wade is overturned.
Well, Rick, legal scholars, President Biden himself has said this might not end with abortion. They point to the argument that Justice Alito uses in that draft opinion to overrule Roe versus Wade. He says, if a right is not specified in the Constitution or deeply rooted in our nation's history and traditions, it doesn't qualify as a constitutional right. And so other rights like gay marriage, like maybe interracial marriage, could be next on the agenda for Republican-led state legislatures. That is the parade of horribles they're trotting out. Now, it's become a political fight. Which side do you think is going to be able to energize its supporters more? The triumphant side, if Roe versus Wade is overturned, or the ones who are saying, look, and may then go on to other non-specified rights, or the Democrats who are playing defense here?
Every political strategist that I've ever talked to, Terry, over years of covering this, would rather be on the side of a righteously aggrieved minority even than on the complacent majority. And the fact that conservatives are getting their way on Roe v. Wade, it's a huge cause for celebration. But it's a big wake-up call on the other side. In fact, think about how the politics of abortion for half a century have shaped conservative organizing. It's been about getting conservative justices on the court, getting to the moment that you could achieve this. Suddenly, the shoe will be on the other foot, and it will be Democrats saying, look, what it means to have conservative governance. Elections have consequences. You have the most dramatic example of that possible. And yes, it is conceivable that a court that said that there's no longer a right to the abortion, or there was never a right to an abortion in the Constitution, could also say the founders didn't mention gay marriage, they didn't mention interracial marriage, they didn't mention contraception. All of that is well on the horizon, but it's certainly within the realm of the conceivable if you have a majority of justices who are willing to throw out a precedent as established as Roe.
Judicial activism gets addictive. The liberals found that out in the 60s and 70s, and it may be that conservatives really in ascendance on the Supreme Court now might find the same thing. Rick, some states, like Missouri, they're now considering legislation that would go after, criminalize physicians and women looking to access abortions across state lines. Now, that does implicate federal issues. Is the White House thinking about this possibility?
No question that is on the radar screen as to how aggressive some states plan to be. Yes, the federal government does have jurisdiction over anything that affects interstate commerce, anything that means moving beyond the borders of an individual state. That is an area where they can certainly go. And that issue of criminalizing conduct surrounding abortion, I know that you asked an anti-abortion advocate on our air just the other day about it. It's an uncomfortable question for many conservatives, many Republicans. If you believe abortion is murder, then should people be prosecuted in that way? That is a very delicate area, and there's not as many states that are willing to go that far. And I think it's going to be one of the areas where you're going to see some conservative activists maybe fall short. It's going to be an area of a lot of contention and definitely something the Biden White House is looking at.
I have seen that there are states now considering criminalizing women for seeking an abortion, which would be consistent if it's murder, if it really is murder in the minds and hearts of the people who are so-called pro-life, then you would do that. But it's a tough sell. Rick Klein, thanks very much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.